Welcome CSE 103. I'm going to run through the bat and bird animal trace. I'm going to open up the instructions right here. And part of the reason I'm opening them up is because we have a picture that we're going to work on that's in here. I'm going to right click on this and open a link in a new tab. And then I'm going to run down the photos down to the bottom, and I'm going to click on the bat picture, and I'm going to right click and do save image as, and I'll save it to my desktop as bat. And while I'm here, I'll click on this one and I'll right click and save image as, and I'll just call this bird. So I have those on my desktop, and I'm going to go to Gravit. So I could close these up and look at my instructions here for the bat, which are in PDF format. And I'm going to go to Gravit. I'm going to go to Designer. And if you've logged in already, it may go back to your account that you're already in. And you can just use infinite canvas here, so you don't have to put any width and height. Just says new design. We'll hit create, and in here we're going to go to this option that says place image, this icon right here, place image, and I'm going to go to my desktop and just find my bat, and there it is. And you can move it around using your arrow here. I have a little bit of a smaller screen, so I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. Just grab on the corner, and we're going to trace over this. Now you can lock this. There's a little lock down here. You won't see it unless you hover over this layer, and I'm going to lock it. That's my bat image. Now you can make a new layer, or if you start, as long as you lock this, if you start creating a new layer with your pen tool, this says path, but it's actually the pen tool that we're going to use. What we're going to do is just start tracing this, and we'll do this by selecting the pen tool, and you'll see that when I start clicking, it already makes a new layer right here called path. And I'm just going to go to the next point where there's a change of direction, and I'm just going to click, 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 and just go around. I'm just going to make points for the ears. I could curve them later, and I'll just make a little change of direction, and I'll click on all the areas of the bat wings where there's a change of direction. Now I'm not trying to drag and make curves as I go. I just want to go around, and I'm skipping the feet for now, just for time. And make sure you click on where you started to make a closed path. Now when you do that, it's going to fill up this area, and you might want to go down to your fill, and you could leave it white, but I'm going to change it to 50, so that'll be 50% opacity, so you could see through it. And then all we're going to do here, I'm going to go back to my sub-select tool. That's the one that selects the anchor points, and I'll just click on a point, and I'm going to use this disconnected to convert that point. They call it joint here, but it's an anchor point. I'm going to convert that, and then you'll get little handles that'll come out, and they'll work independently. Now I'm going a little bit off my trace, so I can make them a little bit more, scallop shaped, a little bit more bat-like. And you can even skip over some, because even one handle will be enough. Now these are a little hard to see, and you can see I'm just bending it down there. And there's another one here, so I don't even have to do it there. I could skip over one, and you can see now I have one that I could bend in. I'm just bending these handles in. That's all I'm doing, and just kind of following the shape. This one I could probably skip. I'll go to the next one. If you do the one and you don't skip it, that's fine. But you can see I only have one handle to drag in here, and that's actually fine. I'll click on this middle one. And if you can't grab the handle, just grab on the line, or just grab right on the path. Now I'm going to zoom in here. This is hard to see, so I'm going to do Command plus. And then I'll move down, and I'll click here, and I must have put an extra point here, which I didn't want, so I can hit delete. And I'll go back here and make it disconnected again. And if you grab right on the line and move it, it'll kind of, even if you can't see the handles, you could kind of move it a little, and I'll just do that. And I'll click here and do disconnected, and there's a little handle right there that I'm pulling up. And again, these are a little hard to see, and I'll keep going around. I don't have a handle, so I'm going to click on disconnected, and there's a handle there, and I don't think I have any up here, so I'm going to keep moving around. I'll put one here, disconnected, and I see one there, so I'm just going to drag that in. So that's all I should need right now. There's handles here, and you could put more on there, but that's all I need. And I'm going to zoom into the ears, and I'll just click on the tips, and I'll kind of drag the one side out and the other side in, and I'll do the same thing over here. Drag this one out, this one in, and you could drag them down so they're a little more the same size. I'll drag this in, drag the point in. You don't have to be perfect. You could spend as much time as you want on this. And there is a handle there. It's really hard to see when it gets this small, so I'm just going to put it in there. This one I'm just going to drag down a little. And also, if you wanted the head to be kind of like round on top, just put another handle there. And if you can't see it, just grab on the path itself a little bit. You can see it has two handles there. So that's all I need right now. This one I could probably drag out a little bit so it looks a little bit more like the other one. And if that's too far, I can move that. And that's about all you need. So I'll zoom out so I can see the whole thing. There's my bat. Now this is just a shape that's traced over that. So if I go to my color down here in my fill, I'll just make it black. Now it's solid black. I'm going to turn off my bat layer. That's the image that I traced. I'm going to turn that off. And I'll click on that. And there's my bat. And then I'm going to go back to my pointer tool. And I'll make it a little bit smaller. I'll grab the corner here. You could hold Shift if you want. And then you could do a drag copy. If you're on Windows, hold Alt. If you're on Mac, hold Option. And just kind of hold that modifier key, drag it with your arrow, and then leave go of your mouse or your trackpad before you leave go of the key. Then you could resize this. You can rotate it using this thing, and you can make a bunch of bats here in the background. You can make some look like they're further away by making them smaller. I'll Option drag another one, rotate it a little bit different so they look a little random. I'll just leave 3 right now. And then what I'm going to do is make a new layer. I'll go here into my Layers palette, and I'll click and make a new layer. Now it's called Layer 0 right now. And I'm going to go on that, and I'm going to draw a rectangle. So I'll draw a rectangle just around the bats. And after I draw it, it's going to cover up the bats. I'm going to go into my fill, so I'll just click on the fill. If you want a gradient, don't mess with this normal thing. Just click on the fill and then choose gradient up here, and I'm going to choose a linear gradient. And there it is, and I'm going to rotate it twice so it goes black to white. And then up here, I'm going to change the black to kind of a blue or a purple. I forget which one I used. And I can make it a little darker. And then in between here, I'll use like an orange. And then at the bottom, I'll use a yellow. So I have a 3-color gradient going kind of purple. And I can even drag this down if you want it more darker. Now it's in front of the bats. So if you take this layer that I just created, or this rectangle, looks like the rectangle's not on the layer, but I'm going to drag this rectangle all the way below my first path. And also, I'm going to undo that. Make sure when you drag this, don't drag it on top of something, because it'll become a sublayer. Make sure you go in between. You see that little thin line in between, and now that's behind the bats. So that rectangle, I could even lock that if I want to, so I don't grab it anymore. And the last thing I'll do is I'll make an ellipse, and it'll make a new layer. And it's gray right now. I'll just make it white. And I'll make a second one, and I'll just hold Option and do a drag copy. And there's my second one, and I'll hold, and if I have that one selected, I'm going to hold Shift and select that one. I'll use the squiggle or the convert to paths and click that. So they're both paths, they're not ellipses. And then I'll just use my create compound shape and do a subtract. And then I have a little moon shape here. So we have a little beginnings of a kind of Halloween kind of illustration here. But if you see that circle, it means that that compound shape is not permanent yet. You could always use the squiggle and the convert to path to make it permanent. But that's all you have to do for the bat. So I'm going to save this, and you could do File, Save. And it's 6C, so I'll just call it 6C Bat Bird. Now I didn't do the bird yet, and I'll put a -V because it's video. I'm recording a video. And I'll hit Save. You can see I have other ones there. And this is my bat bird.